Hi there, everybody. Welcome to our third Google Chat. We're talking about a very timely and important issue today as a follow-up to our broadcast last night on health insurance, specifically about health insurance scams that we profiled last night about people who believe they're buying a major medical insurance plan but are really being sold something else. Before we get much further, I want to introduce someone that you already know, Chris Hansen, our correspondent, who will introduce our guest.
Thank you, Dan. It's a pleasure for us today to have with us some folks who are extremely helpful in investigating and putting together the story you saw last night. We have Mike Windsor, who's a lawyer with the Montana Insurance Commission office, and also Lucas Hamilton, who is in the handles the press for the Montana Insurance Commissioner's office. Gentlemen, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you for having us.
Mike, you and I spent some time in Montana going over this issue, specifically when it comes to the company NBLA, the National Better Living Association. This is the company that was selling these particular policies. Bring me up to date in terms of regulatory action that you've taken against NBLA in the state of Montana, and why.
Well, the case itself, the administrative action is still continuing. As a result of, if you look at our pleadings, you'll see that there were several companies and individuals that were named in the administrative action. To date, we have settled with some of the companies, two of the insurance companies, National Union Fire Insurance Company and United States Life Insurance Company in the city of New York settled, and they were good enough to pay for the victims' medical bills. We also entered into a consent agreement in final order with the National Better Living Association, its principals, and its affiliate, Allied Health Benefits, also paid a fine. There's still several insurance companies and a third-party administrator that we haven't settled with yet.
So I got it. So that's still in the works. It's still in the works then?
Yes, sir.
Lucas, in our story last night, we had producers go apply for jobs at this particular call center where we saw deceptive tactics being used to sell these limited benefit plans and, in fact, make people believe they were major comprehensive medical policies. How striking was that hidden camera tape to you, knowing what you know about this issue?
You know, I think that's the first time I've ever seen any sort of investigation into this type of product. And certainly for states who are in a different position than Montana, we've already taken a lot of our action. But states who may be considering action, I would consider that very strong evidence that the National Better Living Association knew what they were getting into there with their marketing practices. So certainly it's unlike anything I've seen today.
You know, there's a question from a viewer, and a question that I've gotten often about this is, why is this product, and we've asked everybody, every expert that we've gotten in touch with, who is this product, a limited benefit medical plan, good for? And we can't find anybody who would actually benefit from one of these plans. Is that your understanding? And if so, why are these products not against the law? Mike.
Good question. I would say, you know, first of all, they're marketed to people that can't afford major medical insurance, but usually people are better off without it. They'd be better off saving their money. In many instances, we can go dollar for dollar, and they're not getting any benefit at all. So I would say I can't think of anyone who these products would be good for. As far as why are they not illegal, you know, this sort of package, this sort of bundle, hasn't been around all that long, and it does take a while for state legislators to catch up with that sort of thing. But certainly there are provisions in most of the states' insurance codes that these plans are illegal, at least to the extent of the way that they're represented. Many states have unfair trade practices acts and that sort of thing within their insurance code.
The question that Dan was referring to specifically was, Chris, I've had my limited plan for years, and it's helpful for minor ailments and accidents. How can a person really believe surgeries will be covered extensively when the premiums are so cheap? I mean, I guess the point is, if you were working someplace and the employer paid for one of these limited benefit plans and you got it for free and it was better than nothing, then maybe you could make the argument that some of these plans are useful. But we found, and Mike, correct me if I'm wrong here, that in at least the case of NBLA, there were so many exclusions for what coverage that was offered that it really didn't make it a very good deal for anybody. In other words, if your kid got hurt skiing, you wouldn't be covered, or playing any sport, or if that you got injured doing that. I mean, that's how people oftentimes get injured and need this kind of a policy the most.
Sure. And, I think that the policies themselves, like a limited medical benefit policy or an accident only or an indemnity product might be appropriate as a supplemental policy. But when it's packaged together in such a way so as to lead the average insurance consumer to believe that what they're in fact getting is traditional health insurance is clearly inappropriate.
Here we are, 2-year anniversary of the Affordable Health Care Act and its passage, referred to often as Obamacare. To what extent do you believe that the confusion over the Affordable Health Care Act and what it covers, we've heard a lot about pre-existing conditions and how everyone needs to be covered. To what extent do you think that that's played in selling these plans to people who are confused as to what health insurance is about today?
Well,
Go ahead, Lucas.
Okay. There's absolutely a lot of confusion out there about what is and what isn't covered under the Affordable Care Act, the Patient Protection Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare. And so a lot of these companies, I do think, purposely use their marketing materials to lead people to believe they're getting something that is covered by the Affordable Care Act that provides all those same benefits, when in fact they're definitely not. And so I think that confusion around the Affordable Care Act is a serious concern for consumers, especially when they're trying to shop for health insurance.
Here's a question from Mary. Will Obama's health care plan that mandates that everyone must have health insurance will create more fraudulent companies like NBLA to sprout up? My understanding, and Lucas, maybe you can help us out with this, is that the new Obama health care plan would in many ways make some of these limited benefit plans illegal. Is that correct?
In a lot of ways, yes. The individual mandate that they're talking about there, which requires everybody to buy coverage, you have to have a minimum level of coverage, and in a lot of respects, it's up to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services to decide what that is yet. But in a lot of ways, these limited medical benefit plans may not meet that minimum standard. So you would not be able to meet your individual mandate requirement with these limited medical benefit plans.
And it's our understanding as well that as of 2014, these plans won't be, by definition, assuming the Affordable Health Care Act stands up in the Supreme Court and the president is reelected and it's not repealed, that as of 2014, these will by definition be illegal because there are limits. Is that right?
Right, and maybe, Mike, you would have a different, you could lend some legal interpretation to that, but I believe that is correct, yeah.
Yes, I believe that's correct as well.
Mike, how did you first get onto the NBLA at the very beginning? What got you to start focusing on it?
Sure. Well, originally we started receiving complaints in our Policyholder Services Bureau, and that's the Consumer Assistance Bureau in the Insurance Department, the Office of the Commissioner of Securities and Insurance. People were complaining that they required hospitalization and that their insurance policy wasn't covering anything. one of the folks fell and broke her hip, and nothing was covered. You saw the interviews of Keith Moore on the story last night. He was one of the complainants. After the complaints come in, if they're not resolved in the Policyholder Services Bureau, it may be referred to our Fraud Investigation Bureau. And that's what happened in this case. It was referred to one of our insurance fraud investigators, and after she completed her investigation and her report, it was submitted to our legal department.
Here's a question that's right on point from Debbie. I would like to know if there is any recourse for reimbursement for monthly premiums due to NBLA's fraudulent claims, or is this just a buyer beware, you got burned situation? Lucas or Mike, what should people do if they think they were deceived by NBLA and in fact did not have certain things covered? What is their recourse as we speak?
Well, there's several avenues of recourse. One would be first contact your state's insurance commissioner and file a complaint with them. You may also want to seek the advice of legal counsel, private legal counsel, and there's the avenue through the courts.
If people are looking for health care coverage, they have, diabetes, pre-existing condition, they don't have the money necessarily to buy major medical insurance. They're in the market. They see one of these ads. If they feel like they, need something is better than nothing. What do you say to people? What should people do? Should they just not purchase one of these plans?
Well, did you want to say something, Lucas?
Well, I would just say that when in doubt, it's always best to work with a local insurance agent. Even if you think that major medical insurance is out of reach financially, they'll at least be able to refer you to reputable limited medical benefit plans or help you find other avenues of assistance. For example, there are different federal programs created by the Affordable Care Act which seek to make care more affordable for people who wouldn't be able to otherwise afford it in the individual market.
One of the reasons we first got interested in this story several months ago, not only because some 50 million Americans do not have health insurance, is that, I was driving around and almost on every telephone pole or, any place you could put up a sign, there was something advertising health care insurance, and you can't believe that all those are legitimate. So that's why we started digging into this, and we were able, fortunately, Dan, to get our producers in undercover at this call center and really show what's going on. I can tell you right now, and if you saw last night, the call center has been shut down voluntarily, and in New York and in Georgia, regulators are also taking action. We've got another question here. Chris, have you guys seen other companies engaged in similar sale tactics as the company you spotlighted last night? How widespread is this problem, Mike?
It's quite widespread. There's basically two types of association scams that we've seen. One of them has no underlying coverage at all, and then you may have one such as the NBLA. But we've been having problems with these sorts of scams now for years, and it's nationwide. You'll see some states will shut down one company or group of companies. Other states will shut down other ones. But we've been seeing quite a bit of this over the last several years. Certainly since I've been at the Office of the Commissioner of Securities and Insurance.
And Lucas, I think one of the most tragic parts about what we saw last night in our story is that these folks are targeting among the most vulnerable people in society.
That's absolutely true. We suspect that they get a quote websites, you log online, you put in your information, and you think that you're going to find some, affordable option for health insurance, but it's really just a data mining technique to find the people who need coverage most, and oftentimes those are the people who can least afford it. So it really does hit you when you're at your most vulnerable point.
When you say data mining technique, it's worth mentioning that I think something, we didn't go into in the show that people might want to know is that when you need health care and you Google affordable health care or price quotes, you'll see all sorts of ads to compare quotes, put your information in. When you put your information in the computer looking for insurance quotes, you might be surprised to know that that information isn't actually going to insurance companies. It's going to telemarketers, and anybody, including us or anybody else, can buy your information. If you just go to a website, I think it's called insuranceleads.com, you go and you buy this information. So literally anybody can be calling you, selling you anything. And you might want to just beware and think about when you're online or making a phone call and buying something over the phone to be extra vigilant and really do your homework. Mike and Lucas, how much interaction have you had with other states, and what are the next steps for this? I mean, I know you saw on the show last night that New York is starting to take action in Georgia. Have you had contact with those insurance commissioners?
Yeah, we've been contacted by, we were contacted by Georgia about the time you were filming your story. But I don't believe we've been contacted by New York at this time.
Dan, you raised an interesting point. Some of these outfits are actually doing something akin to robocalling, and ironically, when our associate producer Richie Gergel and I were driving through, the mountains of Montana, remember that, from one location to another, my cell phone, my NBC cell phone, went off, and it was somebody trying to sell me one of these limited benefit health plans, and it's happened again since then.
It's happened to Richie. Richie, who did a lion's share of the work for this story. He also has been getting phone calls because we've been giving our phone number when we went through the process ourselves, and that's an important point, is that your information doesn't only stay with the people that are calling you. They sell your information, and other places will call you, and it's not only necessarily about health insurance either. It could be anything.
Here's a question from Courtney. I just signed up with a healthcare company. How can I find out if they are legitimate or not? Also, is there a site revealing the services offering the insurance coverage shown on the show on Sunday? You can go to datelinenbc.com to check out that. But, Mike, what should people do? How can you check on a company to make sure it is, in fact, legitimate?
Well, you can contact your state insurance commissioner. I would be very wary, first of all, about purchasing health insurance over the telephone. And one of the things we like to advise people to do is to ask for an outline of coverage. You want to know you want to have something in writing before you buy it. And if you went to a local insurance agent to purchase health insurance, they would show you an outline of coverage. They'd show you what was covered, and typically in all of these cases we find that people are buying this product sight unseen. One of the things your story revealed last night is that these call centers will basically say anything to make a sale, and people don't see what the benefits they're actually getting until they get something in the mail later. Oftentimes people cancel, but if you can't see anything in writing before the purchase, I would say don't buy it. And if they hang up on you, great. You'll save yourself a lot of grief, because if you go through life thinking that you're covered and you're injured or you fall sick and find out that you have no coverage, it's not a good thing.
In fact, in our hidden camera video last night, and I can remember watching this for the first time with Dan and Richie, and it was just so revealing. The head trainer of this outfit in Texas basically was telling the new salespeople, look, it's not about health insurance. It's not about insurance at all. I've sold meat out of a truck. I've sold perfume in Walmart parking lots. I've sold cars, timeshares. It's all about sales. And that was kind of alarming when you consider that folks like Keith and Renee, who we met last night, bought this so they'd be covered when they had a heart problem or when they went in to have their baby. What does that video say to you, Mike?
It's deeply troubling. I've seen people going into medical bankruptcy. I've seen people having nervous breakdowns as a result of insurance scams directed towards consumers. It's heart-wrenching.
The national body that regulates this, or at least oversees the insurance industry, is called the National Association of Insurance Commissioners, NAIC. Is there anything that NAIC as an organization is doing to crack down on this, to educate consumers, to take any sort of proactive steps? Do you know? Lucas?
Sure. The National Association of Insurance Commissioners has put this on their radar, and they've already put out a consumer alert, distributed that to a lot of states to distribute them. And that talks about things that consumers should look out for when they're considering buying limited medical benefit insurance. But to my knowledge, that's about as far as they've gone so far. They might have some model legislation in the future, but that's something that remains to be seen.
Isn't there an issue?
I don't know if you know of anything else, Mike.
Isn't there an issue here that the major medical companies like Blue Cross Blue Health, Empire Blue Cross Blue Shield, I think, is one that has a product called Highmark, that these major medical carriers also have products that are limited benefit medical plans that are marketed in a way that has logos on it and appears legitimate? Is that a problem, Mike?
Well, our office takes the position that insurance companies are ultimately responsible for the way that their products are marketed. And to some extent, when these associations put the insurance company logo on their products, their advertising material, and that sort of thing, it gives... It tends to give them credibility that they may or may not deserve.
One of the interesting things that Keith told me in my interview with him, Keith being one of the NBLA customers who thought he was ripped off, was that he was actually on a federal government website looking at job opportunities when a box appeared. He clicked on it, and that is how NBLA first contacted him. And the telemarketer, the salesman, who was also from the South, like Keith, appealed to his Southern sensibility. And when Keith told him, look, I've got this pre-existing heart condition, the guy said, look, you're covered. I'm from the South, you're from the South, don't worry about it, you're good. Come to find out, when Keith has a heart problem...
He also talked about Obamacare, right?
Yeah, exactly. And he used Obamacare as one of the selling points of this, that if you didn't buy now, you were going to miss out on the benefits of Obamacare. I guess, Lucas, it speaks to how far these people will go to sell these products.
Absolutely. I had not heard about the government employment website being the way through which he first got involved, but certainly once you're on the hook with them, they're going to say whatever it takes to make the sale. And I think you saw that in last night's program as well.
We have a question here from Jamie. What happens if after 2014 you decided to choose a limited benefit plan? Would you be fined? Lucas?
I'm unclear on that. Mike, you might want to answer that from a legal perspective, because I do believe that they are significantly limited on what their options are for meeting that individual mandate.
Mike?
Yeah, I think that's correct. I think if you're using limited medical benefit or any number of products that aren't major medical, I think you want to have that as a supplement to major medical or comprehensive health. Although I believe after 2014, and I'm by no means an expert on the Affordable Care Act, but I believe after 2014, limited medical benefits would be phased out because they're low annual caps.
People there's a lot of buzzwords: limited medical benefit, major medical, and a lot of people, just for simplicity's sake, instead of going through a dollar figure or what one covers, what doesn't cover, I think a good way of thinking about these plans as to what they are is if you go to the hospital, you cut your finger off, you need a major medical, you don't, and to cover you, you don't need a Band-Aid. And that's really what a limited medical plan is. It's a Band-Aid. If you need to go for a preventative visit, if you want to go get your blood work done, you might get $75 back. It's not a product that is illegitimate in the sense that it doesn't provide anything, but it's very, very, very basic. And you just need to think of it as a Band-Aid, and that's really all it is. It's almost like a first aid kit.
We have one more question here that we have time for before we wrap up our hangout here. From Cindy, what do we do between now and 2014? Good question. Lucas?
Well, there are a lot of programs already in place for people who have pre-existing conditions and need to find affordable coverage. Every state has a pre-existing condition pool. You should contact your state insurance commissioner. They can refer you to that if you're, like Keith was and had a serious health condition and you need coverage right away. You may also, talk to a local insurance agent. They certainly have the best resources available to help you find coverage, even if you think that major medical is maybe a bit out of reach.
For people who are calling their state insurance commissioners, they Google Montana State Insurance Commission, Indiana State Insurance Commission. Who do they ask for?
I would ask for your somebody who's dealing with policyholders on a day-to-day basis. In our state, that's called the Policyholder Services Division, but in other states it may be called different things. I would like to think, though, that no matter what state you contact, they will not turn you away just because you're not asking the right question.
Guys, thank you very much for joining us today. Lucas Hamilton and Mike Windsor with the Montana Insurance Commission's office. Thanks for being here today, and thank you so much for all your help as we were taking a look at this and connecting us with the people and the information we needed to do this very important story. Again, 50 million Americans, no health insurance. Dan?
Yep, that's great. That's all. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you. Have a great day.